Laos, officially the Lao People's Democratic Republic Lao PDR, is the only landlocked country in Southeast Asia. It is bordered by Myanmar and China to the northwest, Vietnam to the east, Cambodia to the southeast, and Thailand to the west and southwest. Its capital and most populous city is Vientiane. The country is characterized by mountainous terrain, Buddhist temples, including the UNESCO World Heritage Site of Luang Prabang, and French colonial architecture. The country traces its historic and cultural identity to Lan Xang, a kingdom which existed from the 13th to 18th centuries. Through its location, the kingdom is a hub for overland trade. In 1707, Lan Xang split into three kingdoms, Luang Prabang, Vientiane, and Champasak. In 1893, these kingdoms were unified under French protection as part of French Indochina. Laos was under Japanese administration during World War II, gaining independence in 1945 before returning to French administration, until achieving autonomy in 1949. The country regained full independence in 1953 as the Kingdom of Laos, with a constitutional monarchy under Sisavang Vong. A civil war from 1959 to 1975 saw the communist Pathet Lao, supported by North Vietnam and the Soviet Union, opposed the Royal Lao Armed Forces, backed by the United States. The war ended with the establishment of the Lao People's Democratic Republic in 1975, a one-party socialist state aligned with the Soviet Union until its dissolution in 1991. Since then, Laos has transitioned toward market-oriented reforms, marking a new phase of development. Laos's development strategy emphasizes regional connectivity through infrastructure development. The 2021 completion of the Laos-China Railway, connecting Vientiane to Kunming, has increased trade and tourism accessibility. The country participates in the Greater Mekong Sub-Region Economic Cooperation Program, focusing on cross-border infrastructure and energy projects. The World Bank has recognized Laos as one of Southeast Asia and Pacific's fastest-growing economies, with annual GDP growth averaging 7.4% since 2009, driven by expanding tourism, energy exports, and foreign investment. While classified as a least developed country by the United Nations, Laos is a member of ASEAN, the Asia-Pacific Trade Agreement, East Asia Summit, La Francophonie, and the World Trade Organization. The word Laos was coined by the French, who united the three Lao kingdoms in French Indochina in 1893. The name of the country is spelled the same as the plural of the most common ethnic group. Overall, there are 51 tribes in Laos. However, for easy to memorize, the tribes are categorized into three main groups as Lao Xang, which means the tribes living at higher land, Lao Chuen means people residing in midland, and Lao Lu means people who are residing at the plain areas or lower land. In terms of history of Laos, a human skull was recovered in 2009 from the Tampa Ling Cave in the Annamite Mountains in northern Laos. The skull is at least 46,000 years old, making it the oldest modern human fossil found to date in Southeast Asia. Stone artifacts including Hoabinhian types have been found at sites dating to the Pleistocene in northern Laos. Archaeological evidence suggests an agriculturist society developed during the 4th millennium BC. Burial jars and other kinds of sepulchres suggest a society in which bronze objects appeared around 1500 BC, and iron tools were known from 700 BC. The proto-historic period is characterized by contact with Chinese and Indian civilizations. According to linguistic and other historical evidence, Thai-speaking tribes migrated southwestward to the territories of Laos and Thailand from Guangxi sometime between the 8th and 10th centuries. It is said that Laos used to be a great empire in Southeast Asia. It well known as Lan Xang. Laos traces its history to the Kingdom of Lan Xang Million Elephants, which was founded in the 13th century by a Lao prince, Phra Ngum, whose father had his family exiled from the Khmer Empire. Phra Ngum, with 10,000 Khmer troops, conquered some Lao principalities in the Mekong River basin, culminating in the capture of Vientiane. Phra Ngum was descended from a line of Lao kings that traced back to Kun Bolam. He made Theravada Buddhism the state religion. His ministers, unable to tolerate his ruthlessness, forced him into exile to what is later the Thai province of Nan in 1373, where he died. Phra Ngum's eldest son, Yuan Huan, ascended to the throne under the name Samsonethi and reigned for 43 years. Lan Xang became a trade center during Samsonethei's reign, and after his death in 1421, it collapsed into warring factions for nearly a century. In 1520, Photizrath came to the throne and moved the capital from Luang Prabang to Vientiane to avoid a Burmese invasion. Sisavang became king in 1548, after his father was killed, and ordered the construction of the Luang. Sisavang disappeared in the mountains on his way back from a military expedition into Cambodia, and Lan Xang fell into more than 70 years of instability, involving Burmese invasion and civil war. In 1637, when Suriknavongsa ascended the throne, Lan Xang further expanded its frontiers. When he died without an heir, the kingdom split into 3 principalities. Between 1763 and 1769, Burmese armies overran northern Laos and annexed Luang Prabang, while Champasak eventually came under Siamese suzerainty. In 1637, when Suriknavongsa ascended the throne, Lan Xang further expanded its frontiers. When he died without an heir, the kingdom split into 3 principalities. Between 1763 and 1769, Burmese armies overran northern Laos and annexed Luang Prabang, while Champasak eventually came under Siamese suzerainty. Chawanuvong was installed as a vassal king of Vientiane by the Siamese. He encouraged a renaissance of Lao fine arts and literature and improved relations with Luang Prabang. Under Vietnamese pressure, he rebelled against the Siamese in 1826. The rebellion failed, and Vientiane was ransacked. Anuvong was taken to Bangkok as a prisoner, where he died. In a time period where the acquisition of humans was a priority over the ownership of land, the warfare of POI modern Southeast Asia revolved around the seizing of people and resources from its enemies. A Siamese military campaign in Laos in 1876 was described by a British observer as having been transformed into slave hunting raids on a large scale. Laos used to be a French protectorate. Here is the detail of French Laos opening parenthesis 1893-1953 closing parenthesis dot in the 19th century. Luang Prabang was ransacked by the Chinese Flag Army. France rescued King Ouen Kam and added Luang Prabang to the protectorate of French Indochina. The Kingdom of Champasak and the territory of Vientiane were added to the protectorate. King Sisavang Vong of Luang Prabang became ruler of a unified Laos, and Vientiane once again became the capital. Laos produced tin, rubber, and coffee, and never accounted for more than 1% of French Indochina's export. By 1940, around 600 French citizens lived in Laos. Under French rule, the Vietnamese were encouraged to migrate to Laos, which was seen by the French colonists as a rational solution to a labor shortage within the confines of an Indochina-wide colonial space. By 1943, the Vietnamese population stood at nearly 40,000, forming the majority in some cities of Laos and having the right to elect its own leaders. As a result, 53% of the population of Vientiane, 85% of Tha Kek, and 62% of Pax were Vietnamese, with the exception of Luang Prabang, where the population was predominantly Lao. As late as 1945, the French drew up a plan to move a number of Vietnamese to 3 areas, that is, the Vientiane Plain, Savanaka region, and the Balavan Plateau, which was derailed by the Japanese invasion of Indochina. Otherwise, according to Martin Stewart Fox, the Lao might well have lost control over their own country. To be continued. Thank you for watching. BHO Translation Services.
Hãy subscribe cho kênh Ghiền Mì Gõ để không bỏ lỡ